Today, negotiators from Israel and Hamas are meeting in Egypt. President Trump showed this map of the proposed initial withdrawal line that Israel has agreed to in Gaza. Retired four-star General Jack Keane joining me. General, in your military judgment, is the Gaza war close to an end or about to end completely?
Yeah, well, I think we're at a very different place than we've been before. And I think it has to do with all the parties that are involved in this seem to recognize it's pretty much now or it's not going to happen. It's never. So that, I believe, is making it possible for people to make the necessary compromises that are needed here to get a deal going. And listen, this is the most positive thing I've seen so far. We're not there yet, but we're mighty close. And I think we're going to know in the next couple of days whether we really have a deal here or not. And of course, central to this has always been in the past Hamas. And what they are pushing back on, they're saying they're willing to give up the hostages, but then they're also saying, well, we don't have complete control of them. Other groups have some of the hostages from the very outset. So that could be real, as we suspect, but they use delaying as a tactic also to put more pressure on Israel. The second thing that they're pushing back on is they're willing to give up their rockets and missiles, Stuart, but they don't want to give up their arms. And of course, it's their arms that will allow them to stay in power because they have weapons that can force other people to support them. So that's going to be a crucial step going forward. Right now, they haven't agreed to do that, and we'll see what happens here. But we're in a better place than we've ever been up to this date. And give the Trump team and the president a lot of credit here. There's been a huge amount of work going on here over a 7 to 10-day period. Eventually, people will get the facts of it, and it is really quite impressive how we got to this place on such a complicated situation.
Remarkable. Next one, General. We are now learning that President Trump is pulling troops from Iraq and Syria. With the Mideast still in what I would call turmoil, is that a good move?
Well, I don't think it is. I mean, and for a couple of reasons. First of all, we have a modest amount of troops in Iraq and Syria, and they're there for two reasons. One is to make certain that ISIS does not rise again and able to establish a sanctuary in Syria in particular, but also in Iraq. And the second thing is to reduce the influence that Iran has in Iraq as well as in Syria. Even though they've lost Syria as a base of their operations, they still have huge influence inside that country. And our presence there helps to prohibit them from gaining more influence, at least until the situation settles out a little bit more in Syria. And it's such a modest commitment. I don't think we should be pulling the troops out until the situation matures a little bit more. And listen, the people say, well, this is part of a forever war strategy. That's nonsense. This is about preventing a situation that's relatively stable from getting worse. It's about prevention. It's not contributing to forever wars whatsoever.
Got it. One more for you, General. Mysterious drones have been flying over Europe. There are some officials over there who suspect they're coming from Russia, and Europeans are now considering a drone wall to stop possible bad actors and bad drones coming across. Can the Europeans pull off a drone wall, General?
Well, they can't by themselves, Stuart. I mean, what we have been doing in Ukraine, we have some American companies that have been building drones to kill other drones. And they've developed a system called the AS-3, and that is a drone. It has shot down over 2,000 of the Shahed drones that the Iranians have helped to manufacture for the Russians. And they built a factory in Russia to do just that, and Russia has multiplied that factory a number of times over again. So the key thing here is NATO and the United States and the president involved in this decision are going to get that capability. In other words, to build sort of a drone wall to prevent other drones from penetrating their sovereign space. They don't have that capability now except to use fighter aircraft to shoot them down or to use very expensive missiles to shoot them down. But to get this capability will be a step in that direction. So, yes, that's the intent. Not there yet, but moving in the right direction.
My times are changing fast, aren't they, General? Drone warfare is what it's all about these days. General Jack Keane, it's always a pleasure. You know what you're talking about, and we appreciate it. Thanks for being with us today, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a great week.
Yes, sir.